ओके सो हाय एवरीवन। मीनवाइल अदर्स जॉइन, हम स्टार्ट कर लेते हैं। सो फर्स्ट ऑफ ऑल, हम इंट्रोडक्शन देने से पहले कि क्या होने वाला है एंड हु आर वी, कैन वी नो कि हु ऑल आर नॉट जॉइनिंग फ्रॉम DTU? You can like type in the chat box or do some reaction. Those who are not from DTU. Okay, one Pranjal, Jagriti. Cool. So just two. बाकी सब DTUs हैं. Okay, Sunny as well. प्रज्ञा भी. कूल. सो अच्छी बात है. वेब डेवलपमेंट कोई कॉलेज की बाउंड्री से तो होगा नहीं. कूल. सो लेट्स स्टार्ट. माय नेम इज अनिरुद्ध शर्मा and I am the web lead at GDSC DTU. So I will be presenting today along with Chaitanya and Gitansh. So both of them are the co-leads for the web team. And today's session will be the first session for the web development team under GDSC. And we will be having more eventually. So this session would be about basic introduction, what is web development, and how you can basically dive into it, start with it, what is front end, what is back end, and how does your modern app basically looks like, all the architecture from the front end to back end to API stuff and databases as well. So it would be a overview, not that much complicated. So that it is beneficial to the beginners as well as some of the intermediate developers as well. And later on we will also be discussing about the tech stack options. Like many of you might know that web development is basically done under different tech stacks. For example, you create a project, so you can't obviously integrate all the 10, 15 languages or technologies available out there in the market. You will have to choose a few, one for front end or like a couple for front end, few for back end, and then you create a tech stack out of it. So we will be discussing the most common ones present in the market or the best ones that the industry is using. And towards the last, we will also have a little workshop of around half an hour on APIs, and it would be using Postman. So many of you might have heard that, but if you haven't, then there's no problem. We will be discussing it from the scratch. I guess most of the people have joined, but still, if there's some left, then they would join eventually. तो उनका वेट तो नहीं करेंगे अब. We can start. I guess Chaitanya, you can take over from here. Yeah.
Awesome, awesome. सर यहाँ पे who all are there who actually know web development, who have started in the web development field and have done something. They know what is web development. Can you raise hands?
And one more thing, like this is not very large amount of participation, so we can make it more interactive. It is
Yep.
kind of a advantage. So you all can even turn on your mics to speak, and we can have a kind of group discussion along the
Yes.
session.
We'll encourage if you can switch on your cameras as well. यहाँ पे शर्माने वाली बात नहीं है. You can switch on your cameras if you can. Obviously, we won't force you if you can. Okay, so Rishi and Divyanshu know web development. क्या होता है कैसे होता है ठीक है. Sunny also knows, right? And Vaibhav also knows. Okay, great. Anyone else? Abhishek, Aman, Daksh, Divyanshu. Divyanshu knows. Gaurav, Jagriti, Jatin. Okay, cool, cool, cool. Okay, we'll start with what is web development, what are the tech stacks, how to go about it, how to start web development. I'll just take 15 minutes and tell you everything in an overview. Okay? I won't go into much detail. You can Google it up. You can check everything in detail later. I'll just give you an overview. Okay, just a second. Okay, I'm assuming you can see my screen. Can you see my screen? cool. ठीक है, तो what is web development? Web development is nothing but the skill with which we can host and create websites and make it public for anyone to view on a specific URL. Now, making a website is not very difficult and not very easy. There are lots of ways to go about web development. There are tools, there are WordPress, you might have heard, there are Webflow, there are many tools with which you can make a website. And I won't be shocked if tomorrow an AI tool comes up and you just give a topic and it makes a website out of that. But right now in this workshop, we learn how to manually code a website from scratch. Okay, out of lots of ways to make a website, the most prominent one and the one which we'll focus, I'll tell you why in the later slides, is coding from scratch. Basically, coding every pixel, every detail manually. Okay. Why should you pursue it? Why web development? Why not app development? Why not AI/ML? These all are very good domains. Web development is something which has high demand. Right now, it has lots of opportunities. Right now, you guys have heard of Web3. I won't even say all, must have heard. I'm very sure you all have. What is Web3? Web3 is nothing but web development along with some NFT part, crypto part, blockchain, which is confusing to you obviously right now. Okay, so web development is something with which you can make money as well. I am an active freelancer, Gitansh is an active freelancer, Anirudh Bhaiya is an active freelancer, and we all earn with this skill. This skill allows us to make an earning and not rely on our parents' money. It does help in the long run when you have web development as a skill in your arsenal. Web development, with web development, you can do lots of things. Yes, Daksh.
Bhaiya, I have a question.
Hanji.
Like everyone is doing web development, and I think after 10 or 15 years, the web development career will be not the path the people will choose because nowadays there will be a website, there is a website. If you do some text or write some text on it, that automatically it will create a website. So, is it safe to be a web developer?
Yep. The reason being, see, web development 10 years ago was very different than web development right now is. Web development, app development, such things are what I'll say is they keep evolving exponentially. The technologies, they keep coming anew. Every day you'll have new technologies, new plugins, everything new to play with. There will be lots of functionalities. आज से 10 साल पहले you won't see website जिसके अंदर ऐसे एकदम से उठ के एनिमेशन आ रही है, एकदम से बाहर एनिमेशन आ रही है, इतना अट्रैक्टिव हो रहा है, आप स्क्रॉल कर रहे हो उस पे कलर चेंज हो रहा है. आज से 10 साल पहले you won't be able to see that. And आजकल there are websites. Wait, I'll show you before telling you. Wait. देयर आर वेबसाइट जिसमें सब कुछ 3D होता है. इतनी एडिक्टिव चीजें होती है वो. दैट्स नॉट इवन वेबसाइट, आई विल से कि एक वीआर प्लेयर हो जाता है यार वो. इतना बढ़िया, इतनी एपिक चीज हो जाती है वो. बट आई शेयर माय स्क्रीन, यू विल बी एबल टू सी व्हाट आई एम टॉकिंग अबाउट. सो थिंग इज कि वेब डेवलपमेंट फील्ड कीप्स इवॉल्विंग सो एक्सपोनेंशियली दैट आज से 10 years बाद भी व्हेन यू विल सी इट ना, इट हैज चेंज, इट विल बी चेंज सो मच दैट नो, AI won't be able to take over everything. See, this is a website, ठीक है. मैं माउस से क्लिक कर रहा हूँ एंड मुझे अभी प्रॉपर वेबसाइट मिल नहीं रही, बट देर आर पोर्टफोलियो वेबसाइट्स विद दिस प्लगइन जिसके अंदर आप ऐसे जाके यू कैन गो इनसाइड एक रूम, वहां पर लगे होंगे कुछ पोस्टर्स, पोर्टफोलियो. एनीवेज, व्हाट आई मीन टू से इज, लेट्स नॉट डाइवर्ट फ्रॉम द टॉपिक. व्हाट आई मीन टू से इज कि it will keep evolving and AI won't be able to keep up with the pace. क्योंकि
And see, the main thing is, as a developer, you should be able to be keeping up with the changes that are happening in the field around you. Like as a web developer, you would say again, with the same example, many years ago, what people used to do have static sites. Data was not changing, and now you would see sites such as Amazon, which have dynamic sites. And the field is, yeah, the field is entirely changing. And if you'd say that what you're learning right now would continue after 12 years, maybe no. Maybe the basics would remain there, but maybe there would be things that would take over for that. However, the field, in my opinion, would have changed so much that developers would always be needed. So yeah, I think you can definitely go for web development in that case.
Okay, so I think we should not restrict ourselves in one domain. We should explore and
Obviously.
build ourselves
I
on
mean,
multiple
as a
domains.
developer, if you're restricting yourself to a domain, that is kind of a risky thing to do. Matlab, even myself as a developer, I am learning a lot of new things right now. Even though I know web development, I go on to other fields such as AI ML. And then there's further integration of AI with web development, as you see with things like DALI. Like the models are
Yeah.
built on something like, let's say, Python, and then they're used on the web. And for that, you require JavaScript, as the entire site is made in React. So yeah, as a developer, you won't be restricting yourself mostly to one particular field, but would be exploring a lot.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, let's move forward. Different tech stacks. See, now there are lots of ways to go about web development to conquer the web development field and call yourself full stack developer. These eight are the most prominent ones, and even among these eight, there are three which I'll point out are the most prominent ones. One is LAMP. This is see, the things written here are different technologies that are used in the web development field. I won't go in detail about every technology, but yes, these are technologies. You can Google it. I'll share the PPT later on if you are interested, and you can Google all these technologies. Ki what are these? Kya hota hai? Kaise hota hai? So LAMP is the one very prominent. Another most prominent right now on earth is MERN-stack. The industry standard right now is MERN-stack. The third one is very prominent is Django Stack. You'll see most of the websites that you surf today these days are these Flipkart, Netflix, Amazon. These are built on one of these three. Okay, going forward, getting started. Okay, now what is web development? How to learn web development? Yeah, web development has majorly two parts: front end and back end. Front end is what user sees in our page, basically एक site है जहाँ पर data text लिखा हुआ है, image आ रही है, that's front end thing. अब what is back end? Second thing is back end. Back end क्या है यार? Back end is कि front end पे data आ कहाँ से रहा है? Let's say मैंने कुछ let's say I'm an e-commerce website, मैंने वहाँ पे एक कार्ट पे क्लिक करा, ऐड कार्ट करा, उसके बाद से वो मेरे कार्ट में ऐड हो गई, देन वहाँ पे मैंने बाय नाउ बटन दबाया तो पेमेंट गेटवे आ गया, पेमेंट हो गई। वो फंक्शनैलिटीज़ कैसे काम कर रही है? दैट इज़ बैक एंड, वो बैक एंड की वजह से काम कर रही है। एक डेटाबेस के अंदर हमारा डेटा स्टोर हो रहा है। I'm assuming most of you guys know about SQL. There's something called SQL. You might have learned it in school या समवेयर। तो एसक्यूएल इज अ डेटाबेस, राइट? अब डेटाबेस को वेब डेवलपमेंट में कैसे इंटीग्रेट करें? लेट्स से तुम एक फॉर्म बना रहे हो अपनी वेबसाइट पे, वहां पे तुम्हें डेटा चाहिए अपने यूजर से, तो तुम कैसे स्टोर करोगे? So that is backend. So if you want to master web development, you need to go front end and back end both. Now many of you will ask कि पहले कौन सा करें? Logical order says front end पहले करो, but there are lots of people who do back end पहले. So it doesn't matter. The thing is कि if you want to master web development, you want to call yourself a full stack web developer, you need to do both front end and back end. But not necessarily. You can just be a front end developer and on and do lots of things still. I am just a front end developer. I know shit about backend, but still I earn. I know web development. I call myself a web developer, even though I don't know backend at all. I get answer smiling, but okay, I am a front end developer. Let's go. Okay, so backend development. What is backend development? हाँ, गीतांश smiling कि तू क्या बताएगा? तेरे को आता नहीं है, आता है मेरे को. Okay. So backend development is when you make APIs, you make databases, you make server side logic. तुम लोग exactly server side में क्या कर रहे हो? तुम backend में database में क्या store कर रहे हो? जैसे अभी मैंने example दिया, I gave an example कि there is a form and a person is filling the form, he is filling in name, and then whenever he submits the form, the data is being fetched through an API and then posted on a database. The database might be on MongoDB, Postgres, SQL, but the data is being processed and posted. Even before that, data is being verified that it's correct कि name ही है, email ही है, number ही है. So that's all backend. When you process something on the backend, जो front end user को नहीं दिख रहा ना, that everything is backend. You can read here बाकी क्या है. The goal of backend is to provide a secure, fast and scalable infrastructure, ताकि front end से हम connect करके जो front end में चीजें चल रही है उसको हम backend से database से connect कर पाए. Moving on. Now, coming to front end part. Front end के अंदर there are three major what I'll say blocks. Once you go to these three blocks and master these three blocks, you can call yourself a front end beginner developer. Further on, there are some things called frameworks, which I'll explain in the last. Okay. The three blocks. First block is HTML. What is HTML? HTML is the markup. HTML is nothing but hypertext markup language. Now, HTML is what you'll say is the structure कि वहाँ पे दिख रहा क्या, there will be मतलब basically suppose कि you are making a project on Google document and तुम सबसे पहले क्या करते हो, you just type out the text, paste the images, paste a table maybe, and you do some things, ठीक है. अब उसके बाद once you paste these things, this is HTML, this is markup कि तुमने जो content चाहिए था तुम्हें, तुमने उसको फेंक दिया अपने गूगल डॉक्यूमेंट, अपनी वेबसाइट में. यू जस्ट थ्रो योर कंटेंट. दिस इज मार्कअप, यू जस्ट थ्रो इट. नाउ व्हाट इज सीएसएस? सीएसएस इज formatting. CSS is basically cascaded style sheets. Yes, Pranjal, can you show some of the front end? Yep. Okay. So, what is CSS? Cascaded style sheets. Basically, you format. जब तुम एक बार Google document में you throw everything. Now you do formatting. You make the headings bold. You make the headings black. You increase the font size. You maybe add a border. You maybe add a shadow. Pictures को you scale it to a level. Maybe 2 columns. Maybe 3 columns. That's all formatting, right? वैसे web development में you style the elements you throw on HTML. Everything you throw on the HTML, then you style everything कि ये इधर place होएगा यार, इसका font size ऐसे, इसका ऐसे. That is CSS. जैसे यहाँ पे तुम देख रहे हो, background color added है, text color है ये, font size, font weight, keyboard, extra bold, medium. This is all फ्रंट एंड में ही पार्ट है CSS. You add colors, fonts, backgrounds, borders, spacing. Maybe you want to add spacing between the words, spacing between the alphabets, line height. Everything is CSS. You style it. Okay. So now you have put the elements, you have styled the elements. Up. Suppose I have a button that when I press it, it does something in our website. Maybe it shows a form. Maybe it shows a pop-up. What is that? That is a behavioral change. JavaScript. JavaScript is the thing that manages the behavior on your website. But JavaScript is a tool that can be used in front end as well as back end. So right now in the front end, what it does is it manages the behaviors. Suppose when I click a button, I want ki my text color should be red. Yeah, maybe you must have seen a light mode, dark mode button in your nav bars. So what is that? That is nothing but JavaScript. When you click the button, it toggles between a light mode and a dark mode, right? When maybe there's a button that when you click it, it shows a pop-up, and then there's a cross button on the top of the backend, top of the pop-up. Pop-up में जब तुम cross button दबाते हो, it basically goes off from the view, right? It becomes invisible. That is nothing but JavaScript. JavaScript is used to render changes in your DOM. What is DOM? DOM is nothing but your website. ठीक है, website पे if you want to change anything, you use JavaScript with that. That being done, this is basic front end. अब basic front end के ऊपर what can you do? There are lots of frameworks. What do I mean by frameworks? अब सी जो मैंने अभी तुम्हें बताया CSS and JavaScript, these are called vanilla CSS, vanilla JavaScript. But you don't use these vanilla things in your day-to-day web development. You use some things called frameworks. Frameworks क्या है यार? Frameworks are nothing but packages that help you write these CSS and JavaScript. Not like ChatGPT कि तुम prompt दोगे and लिख देंगे. No. You have to code everything, but they are a huge help. Exactly, I won't go in detail, but frameworks are something that help you a lot. ठीक है, front end frameworks are different, back end frameworks are different. ठीक है, this was the PPT. We will go through a small recap in under 1 minute. We spoke about what is web development, website कैसे बनाते हैं, code कर सकते हो. Why should you pursue it? पैसे earn करने हैं यार सबको. Ultimately, high earning potential है. Different stacks होते हैं. Mostly used Mon stack है. स्टार्ट कैसे करना है, बैक एंड अलग, फ्रंट एंड अलग. यू नीड टू फोकस ऑन वन थिंग पहले, उसको मास्टर करो, देन दूसरे पे बढ़ो. अगर बैक एंड कर रहे हो तो पहले बैक एंड कर लो, फिर फ्रंट एंड. ब्रीफ ऑफ बैक एंड, डेटाबेस से करके सर्वर्स, एपीआईज क्या होते हैं? एपीआईज आर यूज्ड टू फेच डेटा, टू पोस्ट डेटा, टू चेंज डेटा टू आवर डेटाबेस. फिर फ्रंट एंड के अंदर वी हैव 3 मेजर ब्लॉक्स. एचटीएमएल हमने डेटा थ्रो कर दिया, मार्कअप है सिर्फ. सीएसएस वी स्टाइल द डेटा, जो हमने डाला उसकी फॉर्मेटिंग करी. जावास्क्रिप्ट बिहेवियरल चेंजेस, कोई बिहेवियर चेंज करना है, क्लिक पर कुछ हो जाए या कुछ स्क्रॉल करने पर कुछ हो जाए, कुछ कॉपी करने पर कुछ हो जाए, उसको अगर हमें कुछ चेंज करना है हमारी एचटीएमएल लैंग्वेज में, नॉट एचटीएमएल वेबसाइट पे कुछ चेंज करना है, दैट्स जावास्क्रिप्ट. दैट वाज अ ब्रीफ अबाउट व्हाट इज वेब डेवलपमेंट. ओवर टू विदांश. किसी को डाउट है यहाँ तक, जो भी अभी तक पीपीटी में हमने डिस्कस करा?
गाइस माइक ऑन करके पूछ सकते हो, कोई दिक्कत नहीं है ऐसी।
Yes.
हिंदी इंग्लिश का भी कोई दिक्कत नहीं है। एंड कुछ भी आ रहा है माइंड में तो देयर इज नो नीड टू शाई फ्रॉम दिस। सारे स्टूडेंट्स ही हैं हम, टीचर्स के सामने पूछने में लगता है हमसे क्या शर्माना। दैट इज
So
द
Piyush,
थिंग।
जब tech stacks में ना क्या होता है, there are different frameworks, right? I'll name some of the frameworks. Using CSS, there are lots of frameworks. Frameworks के अंदर we include Tailwind and Bootstrap. You guys might have heard somewhere about Bootstrap. किसी को पता है Bootstrap क्या होता है? Anyone ever heard of Bootstrap? वो वाला Bootstrap नहीं कि startup को Bootstrap कर दिया. Not that. Okay, Vaibhav
Yeah,
को पता
Vaibhav,
है.
you can tell.
Yep. Vaibhav थोड़ा बताएगा Bootstrap क्या होता है?
तो ये बेसिकली मतलब लाइब्रेरी है डिफरेंट डिफरेंट कंपोनेंट्स की, तो उसको हम यूज कर सकते हैं।
Yep. बेसिकली एक लाइब्रेरी है। सपोज करो कि मुझे CSS में बेसिकली क्या लिखना पड़ता है। इफ सपोज करो देयर इज अ एलिमेंट, देयर इज एक पैराग्राफ, ठीक है। आई वांट टू बोल्ड द टेक्स्ट इन दैट पैराग्राफ, ठीक है। अब वन वे टू डू यूजिंग वनीला CSS इज giving it a class, basically identifying this paragraph will be called hello world, ठीक है। and then using that tag, using that thing that I gave to that paragraph, I tell in my vanilla CSS कि भाई जहां पर हेलो वर्ल्ड है ना, इस हेलो वर्ल्ड वाला जो एलिमेंट है ना, इसका फॉन्ट को कर दो बोल्ड, फॉन्ट वेट कोलन बोल्ड, ऐसे कर दूंगा मैं। दिस इज वन वे, दिस इज वनीला CSS। नाउ अगर मैं फ्रेमवर्क यूज करता हूँ कोई, लेट्स से टेलविंड या फिर बूटस्ट्रैप, मैं वहां पे क्या करूंगा, इंस्टेड ऑफ पहले एक एक आईडी दी, उसे एक आइडेंटिफायर दिया उस पैराग्राफ को एंड देन स्टाइलिंग इट, मैं आइडेंटिफायर ही ऐसा दूंगा कि आइडेंटिफायर लगते ही खुद भी स्टाइल हो जाएगा। मैं आइडेंटिफायर वाली स्पेस में लिखूंगा फॉन्ट स्पेस बोल्ड, फॉन्ट डैश बोल्ड। मैं जैसे ही ये लिखूंगा ना, वो ऑटोमेटिकली बोल्ड हो जाएगा, ताकि मुझे वनीला CSS वो CSS लिखने की फॉन्ट वेट बोल्ड लिखने की जरूरत नहीं पड़ी। आई जस्ट रोट फॉन्ट डैश बोल्ड इन द आइडेंटिफायर एंड वो अपने आप बोल्ड होगा। दिस इज समथिंग कॉल्ड अ फ्रेमवर्क। फ्रेमवर्क ऐसे हेल्प करता है। तो CSS के फ्रेमवर्क्स होते हैं, देन जावास्क्रिप्ट के फ्रेमवर्क्स होते हैं। सम ऑफ द फ्रेमवर्क्स यू माइट हैव हर्ड अबाउट जावास्क्रिप्ट आर एंगुलर, रिएक्ट एंड Vue.js, ठीक है। these three are very popular. Another one is Next.js. So these three, four are very popular frameworks of JavaScript, which are widely used in the industry.
इसके अलावा you'll see other frameworks as well. There would be Astro, there would be Svelte, there would be SvelteKit. ऐसे you'll find a plethora of frameworks. But what matters is you take the ones that would actually have a lot of impact on your CV as well. Because at the end, the web development you're learning because you want to earn. So you want something that is an industry standard. That's why a lot of people go for React. And Next. Next is basically React on drugs, basically. एक तरह से कह सकते हो.
Yep.
Yeah. So it's very powerful, it's very fun, and I'll show you guys how to make a basic website now. And what we'll be making is a portfolio website. So I hope you guys know what a portfolio is, right? बता सकते हैं कोई? किसी को नहीं पता portfolio क्या होता है?
Basically, like we add our skills, project works, and our experiences in
Right.
this.
Right. Yeah. So portfolio is basically a CV that you can show to anyone that is deployed somehow. Right. So you would find app developers who give me portfolio, they're making your own apps. And web developers, obviously, they have the biggest tool available for portfolios, and that is websites. Now, okay, so the images that you're seeing over here have not been created by me. In fact, this portfolio entirely was taken as an inspiration from someone. And but I'll walk you through on how we can make things like this. So these images I acquired from using Midjourney, which is an AI tool which you can find easily. मतलब अगर Google करोगे इसके बारे में. So I'll be using JavaScript. We have implemented features such as this, the scrolling, rotating text. And apart from that, the portfolio is majorly made using HTML, CSS, and some parts are made using JavaScript. And okay, so I'll be now showing you the main code, and we'll walk through it and see how we can make such thing by us. All right. So I'm sharing my entire screen now. And yeah, I hope everyone can see my screen now. Okay, so this is the code right here. Okay, to deploy this right now, I'm using something which is a VS Code extension, which helps me put my HTML or this entire web project deployed live on a local server. Right. So उसके लिए main क्या होता है? You have a main structure that you'll be following. One is the main HTML file is known as index. Your CSS file is known as style, and script is known as what you'll be attaching a JavaScript in, right? And images are these extra assets that I've used on the website. So I'd be going live using this, and ये मेरे लिए live server create कर देगा. It's currently at my 5500 वाला port. All right. So now we'll be walking through how we made such a website. Now, one thing I'd be pointing out over here that we have used Font Awesome over here. Font Awesome is basically a free library that you can use to add a lot of fonts to your website. All right. So in your main HTML, the document, you have two main sections overall. There's the head and there's the body. Now, how you can differentiate between the two is head mein what you have is the metadata. So what metadata is basically the data that web crawlers access, right? So you'd, let's say if I were your Google and I wanted to know what your website has, I wouldn't be using a web crawler in its initial stages to crawl through the entire website. Instead of doing that, what I'll do is I'd read the metadata of the website. So the metadata is stored in the head. Okay. Then there's a title, the links to all the entire sheets that you would be using. In HTML, we use links and scripts to attach scripts. So one thing that I have used here is Ajax to get the scripts. Just give me a second.
So guys, meanwhile किसी को doubt आया इस चीज में, because I think many or at least some of you might not know that when Gitansh clicked on the go live thing, it automatically created that URL with a particular port, and it was basically available to see. तो उस चीज में किसी को doubt है? Because that might sound something weird to an absolute beginner. So अगर
It
कोई
sounds
है
like
तो
magic
they
when
can
you're
ask.
seeing it for the first time. I'll
Yeah.
be very honest. मतलब मैं भी शॉक था कि ओ ये भी एग्जिस्ट करता है. भाव किसी को नहीं है. That's great.
Yeah,
So
you can
second.
continue.
All right. So one thing that I have used Ajax here, and I've used Ajax because it makes my life easier. Okay. Personally, normal JavaScript पे लिखते रहना थोड़े टाइम बाद बहुत बोरिंग हो जाता है. तो Ajax यूज करना तो कभी कभार अच्छा होता है. But it depends on you, honestly. Okay. So okay, तो हमने जो main now we'll be seeing the main document, and मैं तुम्हारे साथ बैठ के उसको is Ajax a framework. It is based on, it's basically an extension to JavaScript. One could say yes. It's an extension to JavaScript mainly. So yeah, you can call it a framework, I guess. Yeah. Okay, so going forward now, what we'll be doing is we'll be dividing the entire section, entire website to say different sections, right? And उसके बाद खुद ही देखेंगे कि उसमें मतलब कैसे क्या क्या बन रहा है. तो the first thing that we are using over here is your nav bar, सबसे ऊपर जो आ रहा है. उसके बाद हमारा जो मेन लैंडिंग पेज है ये वाला जिसमें ये सेक्शन है. उसके बाद अबाउट मी वाला सेक्शन, मतलब as you can see in the nav bar itself हमने different sections क्या रखे हैं. होम है, अबाउट है, सर्विसेज, स्किल्स, टीम्स एंड कॉन्टैक्ट. तो दिस इज योर अबाउट वाला सेक्शन पूरा. Then there is the services, what all I can do. Okay, so a lot of the time in the entire site, what you notice is कि मैंने lorem ipsum use करा. So lorem ipsum is basically what you call as placeholder text, because you haven't put actual text there, but instead it's just text that you can later change if you are making an actual website. यहाँ पे lorem ipsum इसलिए क्योंकि well फर्क नहीं पड़ता, उसमें मैंने बस लिख दिया लिखने के लिए. उसके बाद there's skills जिसमें there is this section which shows how much I use on a daily basis, like HTML, CSS, JavaScript. Obviously ये actual नहीं है, मैं इसमें बहुत सारी चीजें यूज करता हूँ, but this was something basic that I'd used. And apart from that, there's the team section, contact me section, and last में footer वाला section है. All right, so now I'd be showing the code for every part. Okay, so now we have our main section over here. So now when you're making HTML, right? One thing is making your HTML site, and another thing is that you need to make a site which is very good or like very SEO optimized. SEO is basically search engine optimization. So what we'll be doing is dividing it into different sections. And matlab, going forward, you would even see sections. Section ki jagah use a lot of the time in blogs. They use articles, and footer instead of just giving it a div, you use the entire footer tag. It is done because you want your website to be SEO optimized over there. Okay, so you have a main navbar first of all, and a div is basically an empty container that you're defining over here. And isme you'd see a lot of the time that we have a given class over here. And हमने जो उसमें classes given है, तो class से क्या होता है? Let's say I've given a class navbar over here, right? So what you can see in the CSS, this is very long, I agree. However, यहाँ पे तुम देखोगे navbar पे हमने certain चीजें लगाई हुई है, transitions वगैरह, कि वो कैसे काम करेगा. And further JavaScript से हमने क्या करा है? उसको और बताया है और मतलब फंक्शनैलिटी दी है कि मतलब नावबार पे अगर वो स्क्रॉल 20 पिक्सल से ज्यादा हुआ तो उस पर स्टिकी की क्लास ऐड हो जाएगी, which means it will stick to the top of the entire page. Alright, so now I'll be showing you mainly this first section जो landing है, and बाकी के I'll be giving you the code by GitHub, and everyone can access that code, and everyone can see that code और खुद से तुम decipher कर सकते हो, and you can ask us about it. Alright. So I'll be showing you how to make this main section. तो on this main section, इसको भी अब हम divide करेंगे कि हमने क्या क्या डाला होगा. First of all, okay. So one thing you can do to see this is this thing over here, which would, in your inspect elements, which is accessed by pressing Ctrl+Shift+I, which you can by which you can select different sections and उसको देख सकते हो कि वो कैसे बने हुए हैं. So as you can see, पहले तो ये एक मेन पूरा सेक्शन है, उसके बाद नीचे ये वाला सेक्शन आता है, हेलो माय नेम इज वाला पूरा एक डिव आता है, फिर इंडिविजुअल हेलो माय नेम इज, उसके बाद मेरा नाम एंड ये वाला एंड आई एम अ वाला करके, और ये जो है ये जावास्क्रिप्ट से कोडेड है, और नीचे एक बटन आता है हायर वे वाला, राइट. तो तुम इसका पूरा स्ट्रक्चर देख सकते हो नीचे, इवन यूजिंग दिस लेआउट यहाँ पे आता है. आई एम सॉरी अनीरा. Yep, you can see this entire layout कि वो exist कैसे कर रहा है, and so this is actually a very good tool. It's known as inspect elements. Okay, so first of all, yeah, तो हमने इसको क्या दिया, class section home है, and यहाँ पे अगर हम जाके देखेंगे home पे हमने यहाँ पे background tag we have used to give a background of this image. This image is stored in my localhost in this banner. ये actual image है पूरी जो मैंने Midjourney से निकाली. And this using the background tag, I've given it as a background to the entire div. After that, we have these sections. So you can see this is bolded out, right? तो उसका हमने given है text 2 यहाँ पे given है, as you can see. And यहाँ पे अगर मैं जाके text 2 पे जाऊँ, तो हाँ यहाँ पे तुम्हें font size given है और font weight given है 600. Font weight 600 की वजह से it's appearing to be bold. And then there is the scrolling section. Now I'll be showing you how we can make the scrolling section. तो हमने क्या करा? We have created a new string, मतलब basically एक loop through section बनाया हुआ है. And उसमें हमें कौन-कौन से strings दिखाने हैं. Developer, designer, freelancer है. इसके अलावा अगर मैं जैसे कुछ भी मैं इसके अलावा मैं यहाँ पे अगर कुछ और लिखूंगा, लेट्स से ABC अगर मैंने जैसे लिख देता हूँ यहाँ पे, एंड अगर मैं अब रीलोड करूंगा, यू वुड सी यहाँ पे डेवलपर, डिजाइनर, फ्रीलांसर आएगा, एंड देन देयर वुड बी ABC. तो इस सेक्शन से मैं मतलब कंट्रोल कर सकता हूँ कि मुझे क्या क्या दिखाना है. सो दैट्स व्हाई जावास्क्रिप्ट इज पावरफुल. मतलब एवरीथिंग what I'm doing is basically updating over here, और वो actually पूरे changes मुझे दिख रहे हैं और मुझे इतना ज्यादा मेहनत नहीं करनी पड़ी कि मतलब मुझे पूरा नहीं बनाना पड़े. The type speed is basically at what speed it is typing. Back speed of this back thing that it's doing. And loop being true means it's happening in an entire loop instead of just running through once and वो end में stop होता है. right? And then there's this button hire me wala. So what hire me button के ऊपर हमने क्या करा है, when we hover on it, it changes its background to being transparent and the text color to being red. So what we use over here is basically a pseudo class which is hover class, right? So if I show you over here, हमने hire me में करा हुआ है a tag लगाया हुआ है href slash के साथ. तो अगर मैं a पे जाऊं तो मैं a का hover दिखाऊं तो फिर यहाँ पे कलर हमारा white हो रहा है या फिर कलर crimson है और वो ट्रांसपेरेंट हो जाता है एंड उसकी वजह से हमें दिख रहा है. नीचे ऑन फर्दर लाइक यहाँ पे हमने जो लगाया वो हमें इसका दिखा है और इनके दिखे हैं, बट या तो ये व्हाइट बैकग्राउंड या ट्रांसपेरेंट बैकग्राउंड के अगेंस्ट हो रहा है. तो दीज आर नोन एज सूडो क्लासेस और उसमें हम यूज करते हैं. नाउ वन अनदर थिंग दैट आई वुड लाइक टू शो यू इज दिस एंटायर वेबसाइट इज फुली responsive. So what responsive is, it means कि मतलब तुम्हें your experience on the phone would also be good as it is मतलब your experience that someone is having of the website on their phone screens should be good as well, right? कि मतलब ऐसा नहीं होना चाहिए you can only see the website well enough on your desktop and not on your phone. So as a good developer, your job is to make the website responsive. And the navbar has been made responsive by seeing कि उसका by seeing media queries जो तुम एकदम end में जाके देखोगे यहाँ पे media queries यूज करिए कि maximum up to this width ये होगा behavior, नहीं तो इस width से कम पे होगा मतलब max width up to this width ये वाला behavior देना. So yeah, this was a basic website. इसका तुम बाकी का it uses a lot of advanced topics as well such as Flexbox. So this entire session was basically to get you interested in the field. If you want to know more about it, you can learn a lot through YouTube even. You'd find a lot of great sources on YouTube or on the entire internet for free as well. जैसे I started out using free Codecamp, and you can too easily. And if you want, I'm sorry, this entire website's code would be available on GitHub to everyone after this entire session. So if anyone has any doubts for the entire site, you can ask me right now. Yeah, YouTube is gold.
ऑल्सो इफ यू आर एन एब्सोल्यूट बिगिनर और किसी को लग रहा है वो कोड बेस देखकर कि बहुत ही कॉम्प्लिकेटेड सा चीज़ है या कुछ, तो ऑब्वियसली लगता है इनिशियली स्टार्टिंग में, बट इवेंचुअली तुम्हें सारा ये खुद लिखने की भी ज़रूरत नहीं है. इनिशियली तुम थोड़ा यूट्यूब से सीखोगे या फिर गूगल पे सर्च करोगे, छोटी छोटी चीज़ें इम्प्लीमेंट करना शुरू करो एंड मोस्ट ऑफ द थिंग्स यू कैन गेट डायरेक्टली एज इट इज़ फ्रॉम गूगल सर्च करने से. फॉर एग्जाम्पल तुम एक वेबसाइट बना रहे हो, उसमें तुम्हें एक लॉगिन फॉर्म चाहिए, तो ज़रूरी नहीं है कि तुम्हें वो पूरा खुद टाइप आउट करना पड़ेगा, तुम्हें उस पर सोचना है. बने हुए लॉगिन फॉर्म्स यू कैन डायरेक्टली गेट ऑन गूगल. कोड वेबसाइट होती है या किसी ने गिटहब पे बना के डाल रखा होता है. द मेन थिंग इज कि यू शुड अंडरस्टैंड कि लिखा क्या है. फॉर एग्जाम्पल जो गीतांश ने भी पूरा कोड बेस डिस्प्ले किया, वो उसे पूरा पढ़ के समझा सकता है. ही कैन टेल यू कि यहाँ इससे हो क्या रहा है एंड व्हाट डज दिस एग्जैक्ट थिंग मीन्स. सो दैट इज द मोस्ट इम्पॉर्टेंट थिंग, और वो करने से आती है. एंड ऐसा नहीं है कि वो 0 to 100 पूरा कोड वो खुद लिखेगा. अगर वो अभी भी एक नई पोर्टफोलियो वेबसाइट बनाएगा, देन ही विल टेक a lot of help from the code written by other people. So
and I'd like to point one thing out. ये जो चीज है ना कि you'd be using code by other people, it's not a bad thing, it's the best thing about development, क्योंकि you'd be doing this a lot. ठीक है, पर्सनली मैं भी अभी गूगल करता हूँ अगर मैं कुछ भूल जाता हूँ. जैसे जब मैं बना रहा था I forgot the scroll by function, वो करता कैसे है, तो I had to look that up. Even though I have made a lot of websites जिसमें फंक्शन मैं बहुत ज्यादा यूज करता हूँ, but I use it in different ways. तो ये मुझे देखना पड़ा कि कैसे करना है, and that is totally fine. As a developer, you would be running into that, मतलब कि तुम भूल रहे हो what you're doing, and that is okay as well. So you don't have to give up कि oh no मैं तो एकदम से भूल गया. It's totally fine.
Yeah, like even ये सिर्फ पर्सनल प्रोजेक्ट्स के लिए भी नहीं, आगे चल के ऑर्गेनाइजेशन लेवल पे भी ये चीज़ें होती हैं. तो उसमें कोई वो वाली बात नहीं है कि मुझे आता नहीं है कुछ, बस अंडरस्टैंडिंग होनी चाहिए कोड की। कूल, सो किसी को डाउट है किसी भी HTML CSS जावास्क्रिप्ट कुछ भी फ्रेमवर्क के अराउंड, या फिर गिटहब के अराउंड, VS कोड के अराउंड, तो पूछ सकते हैं। या फिर अगर रिकमेंडेशंस चाहिए तो यूट्यूब पे लाइक गीतांश सेड फ्री कोड कैंप है, दैट इज लाइक एब्सोल्यूट बेस्ट, उस पे सारे लोग जाते हैं। आप लोग CS50 के अगर फंडामेंटल्स क्लियर करना चाहते हो हार्वर्ड के, वो वीडियोस वॉच कर सकते हो यूट्यूब पे। बिसाइड्स दैट जावास्क्रिप्ट मास्टरी आई हैव हर्ड इज वेरी गुड, एंड मैं स्टीरियोटाइप नहीं करूंगा बट ऑनेस्टली कोड विद हैरी मैं उतना
Odin
प्रेफर नहीं
project is
करता।
great as well. अच्छा है Odin project में।
या बट यू कैन गो विद कोड विद हैरी अगर आपको हिंदी की प्रेफरेंस है बहुत ज़्यादा। कूल, अगर किसी को डाउट नहीं है तो वी कैन स्टार्ट विद द लास्ट पार्ट ऑफ द सेशन, जो कि एक काइंड ऑफ API सेशन है। तो विद दैट पहले थोड़ा API समझते हैं। प्लीज रिपीट चैनल नेम। गीतांश चैतन्य कुछ टाइप आउट कर दो जो अच्छे चैनल्स हैं।
मैं करता हूँ।
मीनवाइल आई विल स्टार्ट प्रेजेंटिंग। थोड़ा बैकएंड का आइडिया। कूल, आई विल टेक अप दिस। तो फ्रंट एंड डेवलपमेंट हो गई, लाइक एज सुन एज यू आर डन विद HTML CSS JavaScript, then you have to choose a front end library or framework. So the most popular ones are React, Angular and Vue. React is by Facebook, Angular is by Google. So उनमें से ही कोई एक पकड़ना, एंड मेरा रिकमेंडेशन React के लिए रहेगा बिकॉज वो बहुत ज़्यादा वाइडली अडॉप्टेड है। एंड उसके ऊपर भी अब जो फ्रेमवर्क्स हैं विच वाज नेक्स्ट, जो पहले ही डिस्कस हुआ एक बार, सो नेक्स्ट भी बहुत पॉपुलर हो चुका है, एंड यू नो लाइक एक्सट्रीम सपोर्ट है उसके लिए। ऑल्सो देयर इज वन मोर थिंग, टाइपस्क्रिप्ट, अगर किसी ने सुना हो तो जावास्क्रिप्ट के बाद आप टाइपस्क्रिप्ट भी थोड़ा कर सकते हो। इट इज़ नॉट अ फ्रेमवर्क लाइक रिएक्ट एंगुलर, बट टाइपस्क्रिप्ट से द कोड मैनेजमेंट ऑन अ लार्जर लेवल बहुत ईजी हो जाता है, तो इवेंचुअली लोग उसे सीख लेते हैं, बट दैट इज फॉर द लेटर स्टेजेस। कमिंग टू द बैक एंड, जो पूछा, किसने पूछा है, या पीयूष, एंड डेटाबेस। ओके, सो मॉडर्न ऐप completely looks like this. Front end इधर है, then you have API, then back end, and then back end again interacts with the database. So back end में if you are starting out with JavaScript, आपने initially ये चीज़ें करी, then for the back end the most optimal choice would be Node.js, which is a framework for JavaScript for the server development. And then you have framework over top of that, over top of Node, which is known as Express. You can also build backends with Python and the Django framework, and do your front end in JavaScript. But honestly, Node and Express are very good, and that completely makes up a tech stack which is totally around JavaScript. And then also databases mein you have multiple choices: SQL, Postgre, MongoDB. But if you are um, aiming to be a complete JavaScript full stack developer, then the MongoDB is very good to start out, and then eventually आप learn कर सकते हो। एंड वन मोर थिंग, दैट इनिशियली आप एक एक चीज़ ही पकड़ोगे इनमें से, ऐसा नहीं है कि फ्रंट एंड में यू आर लर्निंग रिएक्ट एंड एंगुलर बोथ। इनिशियली कोई एक चीज़ अच्छे लेवल तक तैयार कर लो, एंड आगे चल के अगर किसी इंटर्नशिप में या फिर पर्सनल प्रोजेक्ट में आपको दूसरी लैंग्वेज भी यूज़ करनी पड़ रही है, देन इट इज़ नॉट दैट टफ। लाइक अगर मुझे अभी तक सिर्फ रिएक्ट आती है एंड मुझे एंगुलर यूज़ करनी पड़ जाए, देन आई कैन grasp it very quickly. थोड़े से मैं डॉक्स पढ़ूंगा, यूट्यूब वीडियो देखूंगा, एंड देन आई कैन बेसिकली बिल्ड अ प्रोजेक्ट आउट ऑफ इट, जस्ट बिकॉज कि हमें काफ़ी चीज़ें पता चल गई हैं एंड कुछ ज़्यादा डिफरेंस नहीं होता। कुछ कुछ फंडामेंटल्स में डिफरेंस होगा रिएक्ट और एंगुलर के, बट जब आपकी एक बेसिक अंडरस्टैंडिंग डेवलप हो गई है, देन यू कैन डू दैट। इट इज़ सिमिलर टू DSA। अगर C++ में DSA सीख ली एंड यू हैव टू देन डू इट इन पाइथन, तो ऑब्वियसली थोड़ा सिंटैक्स विंटैक्स चेंज होगा, बट अंडरस्टैंडिंग और कैसे क्या एल्गोरिथम है, डेटा स्ट्रक्चर है, वो एट द एंड सेम ही तो रहता है. सो दैट इज सेम हियर. इनिशियली एक एक चीज पकड़ो एंड देन यू कैन ऑब्वियसली जंप ऑन टू अदर्स एज वेल. सो दिस वाज फॉर द बैक एंड डेटाबेसेस जो मैंने चॉइसेस बताई. पीयूष, यू कैन सेलेक्ट फ्रॉम देम कौन सा करना है. थोड़ा अपनी भी रिसर्च कर सकते हो और लोगों से भी पूछ सकते हो. एंड देन फाइनली यू कैन कम अप विद योर डिसीजन. हम फोर्स नहीं करेंगे कि यही करो, ये सबसे बेस्ट है, बिकॉज दैट इज नॉट द राइट थिंग.
See, that's the beauty of web development. हर रोज कोई नया तुम्हें फ्रेमवर्क मिल जाएगा which you'd feel like is very good और अगले दिन तुम्हें ट्रस्ट करने लग जाएगा. It's totally fine. Explore on your own.
Yeah. Now coming to APIs. APIs are extremely important because initially तुमने सिर्फ फ्रंट एंड सीख लिया एंड या फिर सिर्फ बैक एंड सीख लिया, बट एट द एंड तुम्हें कनेक्ट करना है. सो अभी चैट में श्रेया ने क्वेश्चन पूछा था कि ये HTML, CSS एंड जावास्क्रिप्ट अलग अलग फाइल्स में लिखे हुए हैं, तो ये आपस में कैसे मर्ज होते हैं, क्या सीन है. तो ऑब्वियसली गीतांश ने दिखाया था .html, .css, .js फाइल्स अलग अलग थी. एंड हाउ दे वर कनेक्टेड इज कि HTML फाइल में फॉर द CSS और द स्टाइल्स we used a link tag to import the CSS file in the HTML file, and we used a script tag to import the JavaScript file into that HTML file, and then from that HTML file we went live. So basically you linked the CSS and JavaScript files into the HTML one. So this is obviously really important कि लिंकिंग तुम्हें करनी पड़ेगी. तो ये तो सिर्फ फ्रंट एंड की फाइल्स की लिंकिंग हुई, बट when you start developing, can you please repeat again this linking? Okay, so there were 3 files. One was HTML, one was CSS, one was JavaScript. You have separate codes written in 3 of them. HTML has your structure, CSS has your styling, all the colors, all the hover effect, and JavaScript has your dynamic effects, like that text was getting replaced after every 1 second, and the click effects, the submit functionality if there is any. So these are separate codes written in separate files. But how do you basically merge all 3 to function as a complete single entity, as a website? So for that you need to link them to one another, and that is done in the HTML file. So CSS was linked through the link tag provided by HTML, and the JavaScript file was linked through the script tag, which is also provided by HTML. So that is how different files were linked to come up with a single website. So this was for the front end. Now, if your front end has to interact with backend, or backend has to interact with your database, so there should be some method to do that. For example, ये आपकी वेबसाइट बनी हुई है जो अभी गीतांश ने दिखाई, and it has a login and sign up functionality. So आप गूगल पे जाते हो, वहाँ पे अपनी जीमेल पे साइन इन करते हो, तो हाउ डज इट इंश्योर कि आप करेक्ट यूजर हो या फिर आपका पहले से अकाउंट बना हुआ है या नहीं. So it has to reach out to the backend to confirm from the database that is this person already registered with us, and if they get a positive response, only then you get logged in, right? तो उस कनेक्शन के लिए from front end to back end to database, and then coming back to the front end, these connections are done using APIs. Let me present my screen. API की full form होती है Application Programming Interface, and one of the best tools for, I hope my screen is visible, and one of the best tools for the API development is Postman. So this is kind of a short introduction to Postman, the API development, as well as a little walkthrough, which I will tell you that how it is done. So we will be discussing about APIs, Postman, what are request and response, which are basically the key factors responsible in the communication. And we will try some things out, and then I'll also provide you with resources how you can learn more on this. Let's get started. So APIs का basically best example can be a restaurant. तो consider आप किसी होटल में जाते हो, then you ask a waiter to bring you the particular food which is of your choice. After a good long discussion, the waiter goes to the basically the uh, I would say canteen or the kitchen. He asks the chef to cook that thing, and then when it is finally prepared, he takes that food from the kitchen and brings it to you. So what the waiter here is doing is that what the API does in the web development. So consider yourself, for example, as a front end. So you give your request to the waiter for a particular food. The waiter takes that request, goes to the kitchen. The kitchen processes it on whatever basis that this is to be cooked. And when it is done, it provides a response. And that response is your cooked food, which you basically ordered at the start. The waiter takes that cooked food back and brings it to you, which is the response. So in this process, this your request was finally converted to a response and brought back to you. That is what the APIs do in web development, or anything in general, in app development as well. Everything, APIs are not basically restricted to web development. So these arrows basically depict the whole process that I told you guys right now. And yeah, you can consider a client, a server, and this is the functionality of API. Now, APIs are extremely good when you are developing a personal project, because अगर आपको सिर्फ अपने हिसाब से कोड लिखना है, स्टाइलिंग करनी है, so you are restricted to some extent, right? आप कुछ लिमिटेड चीजें ही कर सकते हो. If you want to integrate a database, आपको उसमें ही सारे fields भरने पड़ेंगे, अपना data भरना पड़ेगा. So it is very cumbersome. But if you are well versed with what APIs are and how you can utilize them in your project, you have a lot of cool ideas that you can implement. So these are the different things. For example, there is a cat API. What you can do is you can create a basic simple layout, and you can randomly generate different cat photos. For example, user comes here and there is a simple button in the center of the window, and whenever user clicks it, a new cat photo is displayed. Now how that would be done is you basically link that button through the API, and the API will take care of all the random functionality through its own database. You have to do nothing with that. So you are able to do something with that API, which is pretty cool. Now, this was just a simple example. There comes this Open Weather API where you are able to fetch weather. So you can create a complete weather project on this thing. You can have the user type the location, or you can basically auto detect them by asking them for their location, and display the weather by accessing the API. There is a Discord API, Spotify, Twitter, Facebook, Google, Maps, Zomato. You can literally build anything you can want. And APIs, कुछ ये गिनी चुनी नहीं है. There are 1,000 lakhs of API. As far as I remember it, there is a website Rapid करके something. So it has a lot of cool APIs listed on it, or you can find it anywhere. GitHub पे you will find a plenty, and they have a good proper documentation that how you can use them, integrate them in your project. So you don't even need to basically learn the React or the complete backend. If you just know HTML, CSS, JavaScript, that's it. Find a good cool API and you can create a very good project with that initially in your first year or second year, or whenever you are starting with web development. So that is a pretty cool thing. Now APIs, if अगर आपने Lego खेला है बचपन में, so it is like a kind of a building block. तो आपके front end code, back end code, different blocks हैं, and then the API is the one that connects them, जिस पे we have already talked about. Now coming to Postman, what is Postman and why it is relevant for API development? So Postman is a collaborative platform for API development that simplifies creating, using, and testing APIs. Now, obviously, I showed you the APIs available to you for public use, but you can also create your own APIs. For example, you just want to connect your front end to back end, then you have to develop the particular API for the use yourself. So Postman will help you with that, for creating as well as testing that, for because obviously it can't be error free in a single go. And Postman is thus used by many top companies for this and API development process, and hence you should too as well. Now, what does Postman basically solve? Why is it required? It is required because it gives you a graphical user interface to create and test all the API thing, the complete process of API development. Earlier, you had to use the curl command. So curl is basically in your what do you say this, your terminal or command line. The curl command is used to hit a particular URL. So if you do curl google.com, so you will get a response that you have basically connected with Google, or your network is working fine. So earlier, if you developed an API, you had to use this curl command to see if this it working fine or not, and if it is not, then a whole lot of error was displayed, which was not even always very intuitive that what basically the error is. And so the development took a lot of time and resources. But with Postman, you get a graphical user interface. You have a lot of options. I will be also show you how the Postman looks like in a few seconds, and you can basically find out why is it so good. Now coming to request and responses, which I talked about in that waiter example. So request and responses are the fundamentals of API development. This is your client and there is this server, and through the network your request and responses are sent, and here is the API thing that also comes into play. Now to make request, the three main ingredients are a method, an address or a URL, and a path. So these things I will cover into much detail when I give you a basically walkthrough of the Postman interface. But keep these in mind that a method is important, basically essential. There are much more things that you can add into your request, but these are the basic three which are necessity and have to be there: path, URL, and method. Yeah. So in this example, this get is the method, and your URL is https google.com, and your path is the last, the search one. Sorry. Now there are a lot of methods available. The main four ones are get, post, put or patch, and delete. These are all well written. Get is used to retrieve information. Post is used to send information. These are for update, and delete. You will get to know them better once you start using them in your projects, because it is not completely theoretical. And yeah, ये URL को इन्होंने basically divide किया है as protocol, host and path. These you all already learn in your syllabus. Now as I said, those three things were the essential ones, and there are a lot more things that you can add, which are basically parameters, authorization, headers, and body. And these are very essential when it comes to organization level thing. आप personal projects में सिर्फ उन तीन से काम चला सकते हो, but obviously on at a bigger level the authorization is extremely important, and then you have parameters as well, headers, body. Now I would like to talk about data types, although this won't be that intuitive as of now for most of you. But you can send information obviously in request and response. Besides that URL, what are you gonna send is really important. So if you wish to authorize a particular person in let's take that Gmail example again. When you click on that login, your email ID name are passed on as an object to the backend, and that object is verified into the database, and a response is returned based on that thing, that whether you are registered or not. Now receiving responses. So responses are received in with at least these three elements: a status code. These you might have learned in even the secondary schools as well. That 200 is for OK, 404 not found, 500 is server error, and so on. So you get a status code. If it is 200, then very good, the API development was successful. Else you have to resolve errors, or in some cases it might be a server issue. Your API might be perfectly well, but there would be some issue from server, and you will get a 500 in most cases. Then you have headers with that response as well, and obviously there is body again. Like initially in your request you sent your name and email. In your body you will now get obviously your name, email, or some other field values as well, if you are present in their database or not. I hope काफी कुछ समझ आया होगा. These were the all things that we covered: methods, addresses, parameters, authorization, body data, what all things are required in API. So before we proceed, this is the Postman website, first of all, where you all can go read through the docs. What is this? Sign up for free, and you can also download a desktop version. So I have the desktop version with me. I have already logged in. I hope it is still visible to all. Yeah. So now in this desktop version, the main things initially what you need to focus on is, after logging in, this is a workspace, which is basically a project that you are building or testing your API for. So I have created this sample project called Web Session, and here is where you can test an API. So I have created this new tab. So as we saw in the PPT, are all the methods that you can use: get, post, put, patch. There are plenty of them, but the main ones are get and post. 99% of the times you will be using these, and if not these, put or delete. So if we take get only, and if this is a website, for example, I have just clicked send and it says 200 OK. This is because google.com is obviously publicly available to all of us. So it is giving out a response. You can see all the different types of body responses. So obviously the body responded by them is a web page. This is the code for the normal google.com. So this was basically received by our client or my desktop, and the code for that is displayed here. So you need to get in details of this. The main thing for you here is that you can test the APIs like this by using the selected method, the website, and your path. Now these are parameters. So for example, if you see a Google search, I have opened up an example for you. If you just type GDSC, so here your URL was just this, google.com, but here you have a whole lot of these things. But what are these? So these are all called URL parameters. And besides this was your host, a URL. The search was your path. And once you see this question mark, after a question mark is your parameter. So for example, Q is a parameter, which means query in the case of Google, and the query is GDSC. Q equals to GDSC. So Q is a parameter in this case. Then parameters are separated by this and symbol. So after this and symbol, this is another parameter, which I don't honestly know what is it. So it has this value, this whole complete thing. Then there is this another parameter called source, which is HP, but I don't know, my laptop is MSI, why is it showing HP? But okay, whatever be the case, you got the idea that what are parameters. So you can specify the parameters on your own while developing API here, the key and the value. For example, Q is the key and value is GDSC, which was here, this first one. So you get the idea that how much flexibility Postman is giving you to develop. You just have to type these two things and see. After a question mark, I have got this Q equals to GDSC automatically. So you can add multiple to this. Then there is this authorization, but which is not currently the scope. It is an advanced thing. Header is also, but I'll give you an idea. So header keeps the information about the kind of request and response it is. So it is whether a media, a text thing, and some more things like that, a token, user agent. So headers also keep a check. For example, you are logged in into your Gmail and then you come back tomorrow and click on Gmail. Obviously it does not ask you again for your credentials. It is automatically logged in unless you did it using incognito last time. So that is because the tokens are passed on through headers that you are already logged in and you haven't been logged out yet. And another main thing beside params initially for you would be body. So as I said, you can send data through your request and responses. So that is for API development, that is done through this body thing. You can type in raw data, for example, an JavaScript object. This is a body which has a JavaScript object, which has this property event and this value. So this would be passed to Google as a body. Obviously, in this case, it might not work because Google won't be ready to accept a body from our side, bad request. But when you are developing your own API, you can obviously do this functionality. Now, how it is done would be very much clear only while you are developing a project. So as soon as you are done with HTML, CSS, JavaScript, you can hop on to API development to interact with backends and front end thing and play with Postman. Only then it comes into play in your journey of web development. Coming back to these slides, I have given a quick overview to you all regarding what Postman is and API is. Now coming to the next part. So I myself am a Postman student expert. So what Postman student expert is, it is a certification for a student like all of us who are well versed with Postman and how APIs are developed using it. So once you think you are quite familiar with Postman, you can apply for this on their website, official website. You can just type out Postman student expert and the website will pop up. You can apply for that and do a simple test, and if you pass that, you get a Postman student expert certification, which is I would say really good because these are the perks for that. You have the option to become a student leader eventually, and once you become a student leader in your campus or community, you can get resources from Postman to conduct various workshops and events in future for your juniors or something. And also you can get Postman as a sponsor, ask them for speakers, so they can send you, the professionals who are working at Postman to take speaker sessions at your community and things. And obviously you get access to their private Discord link once you are a student expert, where you can discuss with other people any queries or things regarding the API development. This is basically, see, this is the link which you can use. You can take a screenshot or just Google it, you will find it. It's not a big deal. Now for this session, you can share your learnings with this hashtag on Twitter and LinkedIn to come into notice of Postman. There is also a blog writing competition going on where you can basically blog out your learnings from today's session like if be it web development, be it API or Postman, and you can publish that blog into any of the platform with these hashtags and just send it to Postman. You can find their email through their website, and they will send the cool swags to the best blog they find out. You can get in touch with me if you have any doubts on this. And these are the more resources once you are ready to start with your API development journey. You can take a quick screenshot of this. Cool. Now it is done from our side. You can have Q&A. Also, this is a feedback from form for you all. So Shivam can post this in the chat. If he has not yet, you can fill out like what is your viewpoint on this session and any for basically suggestions for the future ones. So I will end it here.